I never thought I'd become the kind of person who plans in silence, waiting for the right moment to expose someone I once trusted completely. But betrayal awakens something inside you, something cold, calculating, and utterly determined. And my wife, Jenna, had awakened that side of me without even realizing it. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She had a demanding job, family responsibilities, and our teenage son's endless school activities. But the signs were subtle yet persistent. Late-night texts, hushed phone calls, hurriedly exiting rooms when I entered, the occasional smirk or laugh she tried to hide. I told myself I was imagining things. I wanted to believe that the woman I had married for over a decade still loved me. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The first real alarm came a few months before the incident. Our son had a friend, Alex, over one weekend. Jenna offered to take him to the movies, ostensibly to give me a break from household chores. I noticed the way she kept glancing at her phone, her body language unusually tense. She said she was checking a work email, but I knew better. I could feel it in my gut. Something was happening. Over the next several weeks, her behavior became more obvious. She began dressing differently when she went out, taking longer showers, and suddenly caring deeply about small details, perfumes, clothes, her hairstyle that she had never prioritized before. She was distracted in a way that screamed deception. But I didn't confront her immediately. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. Something she could never deny. Then came the moment that changed everything. I accidentally saw a message on her phone she had left open while grabbing a glass of water. It was from a guy she had met through a friend, her boy toy, as she referred to him in that text. My stomach dropped when I read the words. Haha, he's such a simp. Can you believe how much he dotes on you? Simp, the word echoed in my mind. Every gesture, every word, every ounce of love I had poured into this marriage reduced to a joke in her eyes. I felt a wave of anger, humiliation, and heartbreak crash over me. My mind raced. I could confront her immediately, scream, demand explanations, but I realized that would be too simple, too predictable. I wanted her to feel the consequences, to understand how it feels to be dismissed and ridiculed. I wanted a surprise, a calculated, unforgettable surprise. I spent the following days observing her, meticulously mapping out her routines. I noticed when she left the house how she communicated with him, and even subtle habits, how she checked her phone, how she laughed at his messages, how she whispered things in ways she thought I couldn't hear. I captured screenshots, recordings, and even small videos, making sure I had every interaction documented. I wanted the perfect moment. And then I found it. She planned a meetup with him, thinking she had complete control. I knew exactly where she would go, what she would wear, and what time she would leave. The night of the surprise, I set up my plan. Under the bed in our guest room, I placed a small, high-definition voice and video recorder, angled to capture everything. I didn't want to harm her physically. I wanted the psychological impact. She needed to see the consequences of her words and actions, amplified and undeniable. As she left, confident and smirking, I felt a strange combination of anger and anticipation. I sat in the living room, listening, watching the recorder silently capture every whispered word, every flirtatious laugh, every insult she had hurled at me in private. It was surreal. She thought she was clever, but she had no idea I was orchestrating the exact opposite outcome. When she returned, she was radiant, smug even, convinced that nothing could touch her. I calmly called her into the living room. "Jenna, sit down," I said, my voice calm but cold. "What is this?" she asked, a trace of nervousness creeping into her tone. I pressed play. The room filled with the unmistakable sounds of her betrayal, her laughter, the flirtatious whispers, and yes, the words that had stabbed me so deeply, calling me a simp. Her face went pale as the reality of her actions came alive before her, amplified by the recorder. Tears filled her eyes. I can explain," she stammered, but her words were meaningless against the undeniable proof. "This is your truth," I said quietly. "Every word, every lie, every betrayal, right here. And now you have to face it." She begged, pleaded, and tried to apologize, but it was too late. Trust had been shattered, and our marriage could never survive this. My surprise wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about exposure, accountability, and letting her see the full impact of her actions. The days following were tense. Jenna tried to act normal, but the shadow of what had happened lingered. Every glance, every conversation, carried the weight of her betrayal. I didn't have to say a word. She knew the truth had been captured, recorded, and was now inescapable. I shared the recordings selectively, not online, not publicly, but with precision where it mattered. I wanted her to experience accountability without unnecessary humiliation. Her own words, her own actions became the source of her punishment. Weeks turned into months. Our relationship is fractured beyond repair. The intimacy and trust we had built over years is gone. But I learned something important. Betrayal reveals true character, and exposure is often the most powerful form of justice. I also learned the power of patience. Rushing into confrontation would have been satisfying in the moment, but ineffective in the long term. Planning, observing, and letting her actions speak for themselves delivered a far more lasting impact. Now, when I think back, I realize that this experience, though devastating, taught me something invaluable. Never ignore your instincts. Always seek the truth, and understand that some surprises, carefully planned, precise, and just carry consequences far heavier than anger or threats ever could. Jenna called me a simp to her boy toy, believing she could demean me and get away with it. I gave her a surprise she will never forget, one that proved that betrayal has consequences, that words and actions cannot hide from the truth, and that sometimes the quietest, most calculated form of justice is the most powerful of all.